Hi friends, what's up and welcome back to the Smalletics channel. I am in California. I feel like you could probably tell this is not my house. I am house sitting and cat sitting with my other girlfriend. Just hanging out in California, kind of like living, working, whatever for the next few weeks. And today I'm doing a highly requested video from you guys. You guys know I'm in the middle of a mini cut. I have a photo shoot next week. I've been vlogging about it. Still gonna release a vlog next week detailing all that. But this is more of like a sit down and chat about carb cycling. Lots of you guys asked if I could do a more in-depth video about carb cycling. So this is going to be specifically carb cycling for petite women, what it is, how to do it, and kind of the pros and cons. And then I'm also gonna tell you exactly how I'm doing it. I also kind of showed you how I was doing it in my last video that I published last week in my vlog, but I will also just give you a breakdown so you can kind of like learn how it's actually put into practice. So I have my matcha, I have some notes, and I have a kitten. Hold on. This is Fid's Gig. I think that's his name. There's 4 cats in this house, and he's gonna help me teach you guys carb cycling too, because, well, he mostly is on a eat anything diet, but I think he does it in moderation because look at him. Anyways, we will jump into it now. No more distractions. So what is carb cycling? There is no fast and hard definition because there's so many ways of doing it, but the basic gist is it is rotating your carbohydrates to varying amounts on different days. So some days you might have low days, some days you might have high days, some days you might have moderate days, and some days you guys might have seen before, there's carb cyclers who do no carb days. We will never recommend that. I personally would never recommend that. That's not something I will ever do. That's keto. We don't do that here. This isn't a diet, although you could be in a caloric deficit while doing this. This is just a way to optimize your energy based on your workout and your workout schedule, and also optimize your performance. So a little bit of history of carb cycling. I looked into the research on this, and I personally know carb cycling back from when I was a competitive, high-level competitive fencer. And carb cycling was something that me and my other athletes and the Olympians used for performance reasons, because obviously it makes sense. You guys have heard of probably like carb loading, like the night before a competition or the night before, you're gonna do something active. That's basically carbohydrate cycling. It's just the idea that you are fueling up for something and then you're tapering off or going lower on your calorie intake or your carb intake, energy intake on days where you're not as active. So when we talk about carbohydrate cycling for weight management on this channel, or for just fat loss or whatever, that's what I'm gonna be talking about it in this video about. It is actually kind of borrowed from performance-based activities, but it does also have a lot of weight management applications, and we're gonna talk about some of those as well. So the way carb cycling works, basically you eat a higher amount of carbohydrates on days that you're weight training or you're exercising more heavily, say like a leg day, something that requires a lot more energy for you, or you're just weight training or exercising that day. And then on days where you have an active rest day or a total rest day, you are having less carbohydrates, because the idea is here, you don't need as many calories in that day. So the reason why this is really great for petite women is because, first of all, instead of just doing a straight calorie deficit, which you guys know I don't recommend for petites because it's way too low in calories for us when we already aren't eating a lot to begin with. The reason why this is great is because on your moderate or high carb days, you're really working on metabolism and speeding up your metabolism. And that's great for petite women. You're really contributing to getting that furnace going, and then you're putting those extra carbohydrates towards your workout, so building muscle and burning fat. And when you have higher carb days, you're actually able to work harder in your workouts, and your energy expenditure is higher. So it helps you perform better, it helps build the metabolism. And then on your lower days, you don't need as many calories. You're actually able to just burn fat rather than burn up excess carbohydrates that you're not using exercising. So this is fantastic for petite women because you're still focusing and taking a metabolic approach. You're not depleting yourself, you're not depleting your glycogen stores, you're training smart, and you're doing it in a way that will be smart for your fat loss goals and your building muscle goals. Another reason why I like carb cycling is if you're doing it in a slight deficit, which I happen to be doing now during my mini cut, but just so you guys know, I do carb cycling year round, even when I'm in a surplus, even when I'm in my maintenance calories. I just like to have more fuel on days I train and less fuel on days I don't train. It works really well for staying lean and also strong as a petite. But one of the really great things about this, instead of just being in a caloric deficit every single day and then finding it impossible to stay on track because you're so hungry all the time, when you do carb cycling, you never really hit that extreme hunger, and it helps you have better adherence or compliance to your calorie deficit if you are doing a calorie deficit. Like I said, not required for carb cycling. I am doing one, but it just helps, right? Because there's days where you're really full and you get to eat more foods and pasta and whatever. And then there's days where you're not as hungry because you're not working out and you don't need as many calories. But when you look at the net caloric intake for the week, because you had a certain amount of lower days, it ends up creating a slight calorie deficit, which helps you in your weight loss goals if that's your goal. And if, of course, you guys know, I always talk about the main goal for a petite woman is to have this be sustainable and healthy and not do extreme caloric deficits. So this is another way to do it so that you're not in an extreme deficit, but you're in a slight deficit if that's what you want to do. And you're not constantly hungry all the time, day in and day out. Now, I do want to go over some of the cons of a carb cycling approach because I've just talked about the benefits so far. First of all, if you're going to do carb cycling, it's pretty advanced. It's a more advanced thing. It doesn't have to be. I'm going to give you like the simplest how-to walkthrough in this video, but you should already have a basic understanding of your macronutrients, your proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. You will likely need to know how many carbs you're eating on a daily basis and understand what tracking that's like. You can use MyFitnessPal or the My Macros app. I like the My Macros app personally. And if you're just jumping into it, I would not recommend jumping into a carb cycling program right away. Learn the basics of your macros first as a petite, get used to food journaling, learn more about nutrition, eating more whole foods, listening to your hunger cues. Just get in touch with yourself before you enter something and try to do everything at once because it'll confuse you, it might just frustrate you, and it can just be too much. So one of the cons is just it is more advanced, and if you've been following my channel for like years, this is probably good for you, but if you're brand new, just go watch some of my other videos, get used to the idea of improving your nutrition first before you even really consider like a calorie deficit or carb cycling or any of that stuff. One of the other cons is that you can't just eat the same thing every day, right? With carb cycling, you'll have to plan really well so that you're eating literally fewer carbs on some days and more carbs on other days. That really requires planning. You can't just like go through the day and eat and then track what you ate. You really should know and plan ahead what meals you're having so that you can hit your goals and you are actually doing the carb cycling after all. So those are some of the cons of this, just so you know, getting into it. It's a more strategic, planned approach. And like I said, we're borrowing this from endurance-based athletes' performance. This is a lot of the studies on carb cycling are actually in cyclists or endurance athletes, that's the cat, and they're like 3 weeks long. So there's not a lot of studies on, first of all, women, second of all, weight management, although there's a few. I'm rambling now, but you guys get it, right? It's something that we've borrowed and we're applying to fat loss, and it's something that the fitness industry has like really, really picked up in the last 5 to 10 years because it is so effective. Okay, so let's get into how you can carb cycle step by step. First of all, choose how many days you're gonna do low and how many days you're gonna do high. I personally am doing a low day and a moderate day, so I don't have any super high carb days. And again, the idea of high and low is all relative to you and what you've currently been eating. So while I will give you my macros, they will not work for you. Trust me, what's working for me is not gonna work for you because it's all about where you're starting and what you're currently eating, right? If you're eating 1,000 calories and then you start eating my macros, which are 1,300 to 1,500, you will gain weight, right? But if you're starting off from an 1,800 calorie and you use my macros, you will be in too steep a deficit and it won't set you up for success. So just keep that in mind when I give you my macros today. It's really meant to just serve as an example and a real world like use case scenario, but don't use them exactly because they won't be perfect for you. So choose how many days you're gonna do for each. When I'm doing this mini cut, I personally am doing 4 low carb days and 3 moderate carb days. Generally, if you don't know how many to pick, just look at your current workout schedule and plan them according to that. So for example, if Monday you train legs, any day you train legs, I will say, I would go ahead and make that a moderate or a high carb day because there's way more muscles in your glutes and your legs to work. You're gonna need more energy on those days to have a great workout. For me, if I have Monday, Wednesday, Friday as lower body days, I'm gonna make sure those are my moderate carb days. Those would be my 3 moderate. And then for the rest of the week, I have Tuesday and Thursday, let's say, are my upper body days, which they are. I'll just do my low carb days. And then on the weekends, I'm doing active recovery or just cardio alone. I'll make those my low carb days as well. So make sure you put your higher carb days towards your more intense workouts and your lower carb days towards your rest days, or the days you just do some light cardio, or the days that you do yoga or active recovery, and make sure that it's sparsed out in that way. And that's how you can kind of dictate how many days you're gonna do low, how many days you'll do moderate or high. Next, you're gonna wanna make sure you know your calorie goals and your macros so that you know how many carbs to have and change on your moderate high days and your low days. So last week I shared with you guys my exact macros for this cut, so I'm gonna do it again. So on my low carb day, I'm roughly at 1350 to 1400 calories. I'm doing 150 grams of protein. That's way higher than I normally recommend, by the way, and I will tell you why in a second. I usually recommend 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. I'm 113 pounds right now, so it should be lower, but because it is one of the safest macros, it is the safest macro to eat, which means it has a higher thermo effect than fats or carbohydrates. When you digest it, you burn more calories to digest protein than fats or carbs. So it's a safer macro. That's why mine's a little bit higher right now. I'm having 150 grams of protein, 90 grams of carbohydrates, and 45 grams of fats on my lower carb day. Now, another thing here to note is that you can likely have a little bit higher fats on your low carb days, and that will help you with your recovery. And then on my moderate carb day, this is not a high carb day by any means. This would be my moderate day. I have about 1550 to 1600 calories at 150 grams protein, again, 140 grams of carbohydrates, and 45 grams of fats. So I bet you're wondering what's the difference in carbs that I should do on a moderate day versus a low day. Now this is where it's like, I can't give you a prescriptive number. You can see that for me, I'm doing about a difference of 50 grams of carbs on my low versus my moderate day. Now that's a pretty steep cut for me. Again, I'm in a mini cut phase right now. It was a short mini cut, so I'm trying to expedite it and get in. It's a fun thing I'm doing for this photo shoot, right? So for me, 50 grams of carbs less is a lot. When I'm in a maintenance phase or I'm in a surplus, for example, I'll likely have a lot less of a discrepancy between a low and a moderate day. It might be 110 grams of carbs on a low day and 135 or 140 on a moderate day. But because I'm on this mini cut, again, this is in the context of where I am right now in my goals and life and kind of the last few weeks of videos I've posted. It's a little bit bigger of a carbohydrate cycle than I would normally do. So you have to figure out what works for you, but I would recommend starting small and not overdo it when you're first getting into it. Okay, so let's take a look at what this carb cycling schedule could look like in my scenario, which is exactly what it looks like. I take the macros I just gave you and I do Monday, high carb, Tuesday, low carb, Wednesday, high carb or moderate carb, we'll say moderate, Thursday, low, Friday, moderate, Saturday, Sunday, low. And that's how I carb cycle. At the end of the week, my net intake of calories is going to be lower than obviously if I just did the same number of moderate carb calories all throughout the week. So I end up being in a slight caloric deficit here, and I don't feel like I'm in this crazy deficit because I've had days where I'm really full and satiated, followed up by days of less activity and less food. Another really great thing about carb cycling is that if you have a craving that you can't fit on a low, you can't budge it in on a low day, you only have to wait the next day to then fit that treat into your plan. So something that you guys know I teach is everything in balance. So if you can still eat mostly whole foods, 80% whole foods, and leave 20% of your foods to fun foods, you can still budget those in on your moderate or high days. And you could even do more moderate or high days than I have right now. Since I only have 3, you could do 5. And that way you're still able to eat all your favorite foods and budget them in, and at the end of the day, still reach your goals. So this was very much a quick I wanted to make a quick and dirty how-to video on carb cycling, explain it, make sure it's tailored to petite women, and teach you guys how to do it, give some background as to what I'm doing right now. Let me know if this sets you up for success. I have so many other videos on food and all of that stuff. I'll let you dive in for other things not relating specifically to carb cycling. But if you liked this video, please give it a like, subscribe to this channel for more content tailored to petite women. I'm also currently teaching a free masterclass for petite women all about fat loss. It's all about the petite female body type and what's different about our metabolisms. It's totally free. I would love to see you there. You can sign up and save your seat in the description below. And if you have any questions about carb cycling that I did not cover in this video, ask me in the comments below. I will reply to all of them. I usually do. And I want to make sure you guys feel like this is something you could dip your toes in. I want it to make, feel comfortable for you. And I hope that it served as kind of like an educational video to get you up to speed. All right, you guys, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you next week in my vlog of LA and continuing this mini cut and the photo shoot I have planned. All right, bye.